Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode. Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hello, I'm the Evergreen.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, I'm Corey Evans. I am the Evergreen. Just me, myself, and I. Been doing it for a little bit. I think it was probably, music's always been a part of my life, so I've always been doing it. And I'm sure like a lot of people during like the pandemic part, especially in that beginning part where there was the lockdown and stuff, finding stuff to do was something that, people started doing a lot of. And I was trying to figure out how to record music and send it to my brother who lives in Peru. And eventually I got an interface and was able to figure out how to do it. And then I started making recordings and then just sending it to my brother saying, hey, look what I'm doing, and then he started, sending me stuff back, and we kind of still collaborate to this day. But that's kind of what I've always, at least I've been doing like the last, few years. And music, that's, I speak through the music. I feel it really, really deeply. And, there are a number of artists that I really connect with that I'm like, man, making stuff like that, maybe not exactly the same genre or anything, but, just that same feeling that I get, that's what I try to, replicate through my stuff.
Oh yeah, I dig that. And what got you started into music initially?
Well, I think probably my dad. He, growing up by the hearth, he always had his acoustic guitar. As I started getting older, I had seen him, picking up and playing every now and then. And, his music knowledge was pretty, is still, pretty awesome. And I give him a lot of credit for kind of introducing me to music. And then, but like I said, he had that guitar. When I got probably 7th grade, I started showing interest in trying to play. Started playing with his. I borrowed one from my uncle that I still have to this day. And then it's really just taken off from there. And I started getting into whatever I was into, playing the stuff that I wanted to play. And then, being influenced by a lot of people, but definitely starting with him for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah, I dig that. And yeah, I think I'd read somewhere that you've been playing for like 20 plus years by this point.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's weird to think about.
I know, right? I started on bass a pretty long time ago as well, so I feel you right there.
Yeah.
But before we get into a little bit more of what you're doing in the present day, I have a couple questions I check in with everybody on. This first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Man, I don't even remember. It was a CD for sure. Back, you know what? It probably was, I was in 5th grade, and it was the summer of 2000. And Blink-182's Enema of the State had just come out.
Okay.
And I wanted that so bad, and my mom said no, and I was really bummed out. I'm not bitter about it to this day still, but then it got close to my birthday, and I had some birthday money, and I went and bought it.
Nice.
And even with the parental advisory sticker on there. And since I had opened it from the wrapper, I wasn't able to return it. So,
you had to keep it. Don't.
It was probably Blink-182's Enema of the State.
Hell yeah! I mean, definitely a solid first one.
Oh yeah.
And then, what was the first live show you ever went to? That was like specifically one you wanted to go to. So, like, you saw it was happening, got tickets, and went to it.
It was probably. Let's see, I think my buddy and I were in 6th grade, and it was Little Stink 2 put on by 94.7 NRK, that alternative radio station in Portland, and it was at Oaks Park, and bands like Unwritten Law, Simple Plan was there, I think.
Okay.
Good Charlotte was there. Before they were really big.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first show that I bought tickets to myself that I really wanted to. I really wanted to see Unwritten Law and hear that song, Seeing Red. That song, still to this day, I'm like, yeah, that one's awesome.
Yeah.
But that is the band I wanted to see big time when I went there.
Oh, I dig that. Yeah. Funny enough, the last Wednesday in the world of this show, somebody said that Good Charlotte was the first album they ever bought with their own.
Oh, wow.
So a little bit of continuity there.
Yeah, right on.
But no, that sounds like a solid first like big show to go to. Did your parents take you to shows like prior to that?
I think my parents told me one of my first concerts as like brand new was not in this particular order, but it was Reba McEntire and Clint Black.
Okay.
So, but I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
that's fair. Well, damn, I wish you'd remember the Reba McEntire.
Maybe
about that. Maybe
even I did go to a show at the fairgrounds, Jesus Northwest, and that was in elementary school still, and that was pretty cool because it was, I think, over a couple of days.
Yeah, and
you got to see a lot of live music. And my dad always was telling me, live music is something about it. It's just different, and I totally agree.
Yeah,
it's like I've been offered free tickets to shows before, even to people I don't know or genres I don't listen to. Mm-hmm. It's something about live music, that connection is just second to none. And
I very much so. I'll rarely say no to it, even if it's not something I like actively want to go see, just because, like you said, it's an experience all in itself.
Awesome.
And you never know what it's going to be like. You know what I mean? Like, you never know when you're going to either find somebody that you never heard of that ends up being cool, or like you're just not sure about something. You're like, I don't really love, and then you watch them live and you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. I get why people like them. Yeah.
Or the next time you hear them, on the radio or whatever, you're like, oh, and you remember that experience after the show, and you're like, God, I appreciate this song even more now.
Exactly.
I'm seeing it live.
Yeah, they like tell you a little bit about it, and you're like, oh, I didn't know it was about his time in the war.
Yeah. I love
that backdrop.
I love that stuff.
Oh, yeah. But now let's go ahead and no. Before we get into you in the present day, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yeah, I played in a band with my younger brother, and we still work together. Mm-hmm. He lives in South America, but we still send each other stuff and collaborate that way. But I definitely think when we were younger. What was the question again?
Just what was like the moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
It was when we were in a band in like 2010, and we were playing in like an indie alternative band. I learned so much, even still to this day, that I still use like some of the effects that we were using, delay. I'd never really known what that was.
Yeah.
I'd heard it plenty of times, come to find out, but like I definitely had no idea. Oh, that's what that is. It was when I started playing with him, and then had played some songs that I had written years prior that I totally had forgotten about. And then after we played a few shows with that style of music, we started writing some more, and that was cool. And I got to see, my brother's writing style, and then our collaboration, just how like effortless it seemed at times.
Yeah.
And still to this day, it's still pretty, like, I can send him something and go, I need you to do something to it, and he'll know pretty much what I'm trying to say without saying it. And that was probably one of the first times I actually was able to take music seriously. And after that, when we disbanded, I would do stuff here and there, and then it was probably, like I said, during the pandemic, trying to find something to keep my sanity.
Yeah.
Making music. I'd have ideas. I'd hear a song and be inspired by it almost immediately, or I'd start thinking something along those lines. And I started collecting a bunch, and I would send it to a couple of people, and like, wow, this is really good. And it would just kind of keep motivating me. And then I always thought it'd be cool to have other people play with me, not just by myself. And be like, hey, here's what I did. Listen to it, get a feel for it, and then make it yours. It's been fun taking it seriously. And then when I started putting things online streaming to listen to, and then playing a couple shows, I was like, whoa, it's kind of an addiction too.
Very much so.
It's cool to just share yourself like that. I think.
Well, even going back to what you said originally, like the first few moments when you like figure out like what effects do, and then like what they do in an order, and what they do in a different order.
Yes.
Like the endless rearrangement of the pedal board is like secretly one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
But like, just like finding those moments in music and be able to like grow through them. And it's cool. You really like kind of broke down the point by point leading up to it, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Cause there's, I always I like the question because it's like, what is like the one moment? But I think there are a lot of moments that kind of lead to the now.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I'm still doing it now. Like,
I mean, I hope people never stop. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that even the biggest artists today are still like, whoa, this is something I've never played before, and like get excited about it all over again.
I like how creativity can literally come from any point.
Yeah, very much
anything.
So. And as music is progressing, it gets to change as well.
Yeah. And I feel like my evolution in music, I really think of like when I graduated high school to now. Yeah. I'm open to things I never thought I'd be open to. And my narrow mind or narrow vision towards what I like has totally expanded.
Yeah, very much so.
I look into and get influenced from things that I wouldn't have thought I would have been ever influenced by.
Oh, yeah. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into you in the present day. But we're going to get a super easy one out of the way. How'd you pick the name?
The Evergreen. This is Washington State, the Evergreen State. I kind of wanted a tribute to, where I live, where I came from, or where I live now.
Yeah.
And I actually had a different name that I wanted to use, or I thought about using, like, shortly after I think I had started putting things out on, like, Spotify and all that. That I was like, I can't change the name now. So I used it for a demo idea, but I was sitting around and I was watching a YouTube video on that New York band, A Place to Bury Strangers, or something like that. And I just thought the name was really weird, but it was kind of interesting. And then I just kind of kept repeating it myself, and I thought of, something with the word strangers in it, and I was like, that's kind of a cool name. So I wrote it down as a potential band name, and I was going to change it. But then, like I said, I already started putting stuff out under the Evergreen, and I was like, I'm just going to keep that.
No, definitely.
Fit me better anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it attached more to where you're at, which makes sense.
Yes, so like Washington State, not just the Pacific Northwest in general, but like Washington State.
Yeah, no, I dig that. And it's easy to remember. It's like it's going to stick there forever. It's easy to spell.
Yep.
So I support that. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing style. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Cool.
So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
If I can find like a beat, I do everything kind of what I call the Kevin Parker way, where it's just me doing it all. And if I find like a drum track that I like, I can use that, loop it as many times as I need to until I kind of start getting that song form. And I will maybe play some guitar stuff to make it. I kind of go, oh, here's the idea, and if it catches my attention enough and I like that one, I might spend some time making it better, and then loop that a little bit, play some bass over it, and then add lead guitar into it if there's multiple guitars. I like to layer things.
Yeah.
So I definitely will, add layers, remove layers to kind of, and then I'll send it off to like my brother and say, hey, what do you think of this? Is it too muddy here? Do you know?
Yeah.
And then we kind of go back and forth. And if I like his opinions or his, ideas, I'll kind of take it, or I'll just go, nope, and then just keep it. And then, go from there. It's fairly a quick process, I think.
Yeah, when it's just you, I imagine once you get into like the motion.
I mean, there's nothing to set up.
Yeah.
Which is great, other than switching my guitar cord and, turning the pedals on and off or whatever. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And do you like play the bass yourself? And it sounds like you grab do you grab drums from elsewhere? Do you play?
No, I have drum tracks.
Okay.
And I'll find those, and then I'll do all the instrumentation for the most part. There are some things that maybe the drum track will have, like some synth or something like that over that, or some melodies over it, and I'll use that. But I'll do everything else myself.
Oh yeah, no, I dig that. And do you play keys as well?
If they call for it.
Okay. But like you like have.
Yeah. And that's actually always been a fun instrument to dink around on, because all the notes are laying out there for you. And, in like the early 2000s, there was all that post-hardcore music.
Yeah.
Keys really was like a prominent instrument. And I always thought that was really cool. And that was around the time I was, really into that style of music and getting ready to graduate there in 07. But bands with the keys, man, it made me want to take a piano class. And I wish I would have done that sooner, but it was really cool. But the keys were just everywhere. It was really cool.
No, there was definitely a point in time where they just started popping up in everything. And now it's kind of hard to imagine a lot of genres without it.
Yeah, it's a nice layer, I think.
No, very much so. And you can do so much with you can change it to be any different sound, so it can accompany a lot of the tracks without having to bring 1,000 things.
Oh, man.
It really opens up a lot of stuff.
Totally does.
Yeah. And then once you get a track finished writing, it doesn't have to be like released now per se, but once you've gotten it all written, how long does it take you to get comfortable to the point where you feel like you can perform it?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's...
I imagine there are layers to that, too, since you are... Do you perform as a solo artist?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just stand up by myself and I mute the track that I'm going to play, and then just play everything that's been pre-recorded. And, sometimes I have to go back, and before I play it live again, try to relearn it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I don't write things down very much in terms of like, oh, this song's in this key. I just go back to the track on Logic or GarageBand and go, oh, cool, and then mute the part that I'm going to play, and then, like I said, sometimes I have to relearn it or just make it up again.
Okay.
So,
and I mean, I imagine with your approach, you probably have a little room for like variability and just kind of like improvisation and things like that.
And I actually don't really like doing that. Like when I started playing live, I would play covers of songs, and I wanted to learn exactly how those guys did it, because I knew it was wrong. But even the people who were listening, they may not have realized that, oh, you did that a little faster or a little slower, or whatever. I had to perform it exactly how I heard it. So I improvised a little bit, but as a solo artist now, I'm more comfortable doing that, but I don't like to do it because, I'll recognize, oh, I didn't play exactly like I did when I recorded it.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to, but...
No, I mean, I was going to say, in a live setting, I think there's got to be a little bit of room for that anyways.
Well, and the last time I played live, there were a lot of, like, things that I didn't do on the recording. They weren't errors necessarily. In my head, I was like, oh, but after a while, I was kind of like, the show must go on.
Yes, very much so. And actually, I was checking out some of your music, and I mean, First of all, it's really cool. I really dig it, especially for being a solo artist. It does have a really full sound to it.
Yeah.
And I was listening to your most recent album, Under the Radar, and it, like I said, it sounded really well put together.
Yeah.
Like, especially for being all instrumental, like that can get really one trick really quickly if you don't like take the time to like divide up the sounds and like make sure everything kind of feels like its own. And that was something that really stood out, is each track has its own individual feel. It doesn't just feel like a run-on sentence sound. But I do this bit where I pick out a track that I really enjoy, and I went with Words Can't Explain.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and it just like it was very like, it was like airy and dreamy, but it still was like, it was consistent. It had a pace to it, and it just the sound of it kind of had that. It's like an almost nostalgic feel.
Yeah,
but not in like oh, you were like using this tone. Like there was a characteristic to it that made it feel very like attempt at success, not just like upbeat and poppy, but like there was this like driving element. And I always like, for instrumental tracks, I like to try and like look at what that message is, because there's so much more room for interpretation.
Oh yeah.
But that was the one that I thought really stood out.
Cool. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. But I am curious to know, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
That one for sure. That one, I remember spending a lot of time trying to nail the guitar part all the way through in one take. Part of it was because I didn't want to just cut and paste it.
Yeah.
But I remember that one. I worked like the title of the track in the computer. The file is like, you know, the title of the song, and it'll say take. And I don't remember how many numbers I went up, but I would get almost even to the end, and I'd mess up the last one. Delete it and go back and do it again, and it was frustrating. But like that song, just because of the amount of work I put into it, especially, that's probably one of my favorites to play, I think.
Yeah.
There's a couple of the ones that are unreleased right now that have some sentimental value that make that really fun to play, and one in particular, it's a sentimental song because, you know, I was starting to write it and record it when my youngest was born. And then I put together what I had to a video of him when we brought him home. And then, but there was a part in it that I was like, it just something needs to change on it. And then I was introduced to a country artist from my youngest brother, and I'm not really a country music fan, but there are some that are like, they really like, ooh, I like that. There's something in there to that. And after I started listening to this guy, I was sitting down with that song again, and I tried a different approach to the lead guitar part that I was trying to figure out. And to me, I hear like a country music flair to it.
Yeah.
So that one, just for that, because it kind of came from a genre that I would never have thought I'd be influenced by.
Yeah.
And it was. And so that one's cool. Really, some of the newer ones, there aren't very many, but they're fun to play because I've been playing the other ones kind of a lot, just by myself even.
Yeah.
And or it's been a long time since I played them. I'm like, I don't even remember how to play that anymore. So this new one here is pretty cool because I can remember how to play it.
Yeah, no, I get that. And actually, that's a good segue into our next question, where let's talk about some of your new music that you're working on that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And what can we expect? What can we look forward to? Like, how is it different, or how have you like decided to like put it together?
Well, I think some of it on some level is definitely, I could point to certain songs and I can pretty much remember, or if you were to ask what I was being influenced by, I could go, oh, I was really listening to this group right here, right now. Some of the new stuff I think is going to be influenced by some dream pop bands that I have stumbled across in the last couple of months. I'm working on trying to get like one or two more songs to finish an EP, and they're definitely going to be influenced by stuff I've listened to recently. And what I think is cool about some of it, my interpretation of it, is it's big, but it's really simple too, and some of it has to do with the effects that you're using and stuff. But So some of the dream pop bands that I've stumbled across recently are definitely gonna find their way, and even if it doesn't sound like it, that's where I'm getting the influence from. So,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be something cool to play live too. Again, it'll be, a couple other things to accompany me, but it'll be definitely like kind of that dream pop-ish flavor to it. That's what I'm really digging into right now.
Yeah, definitely digging that. Super excited to hear it when it comes out.
Yeah, thanks.
And now let's take a moment. Let's zoom out. Let's look at kind of music as a whole. What are some of the things about newer music, or at least music that's new to you, that you're finding inspiration from and things that you enjoy?
Kind of like I was saying, some of it seems really big, but it's fairly simple. And I like some of the simplicity is nice. I have experienced trying to make something really complicated and it just sounds muddy, or I just go, I don't have anywhere else to go with this. I'm just going to stop. And I think some of even the songs that I have put out, there have been some that I remember just thinking, that was really simple. Like I followed a pretty generic, song structure, and I didn't try to overcomplicate anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just that the best stuff comes out that way.
No, very much.
And sometimes I try not to force anything. That's why I've been stuck on song 4 or 5 for a long time, because I'll make something. Yeah, that's just not quite it. That's not quite it. I'll just put it away for now and keep trying. Because when you know. Sometimes it's like I'll finish recording something and I'm like, oh, there's something here for sure.
Yeah.
And that just hasn't quite happened yet. So just waiting for that, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And now before we move on to the next portion, which is all hypothetical questions, this next question is probably the densest one in the interview. But, we've talked a lot about your experiences with music, the actions, the reactions, things like that. But when it comes to you and the music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Definitely. It's for me, it's like trying to articulate something without actually having to say anything. There's emotion behind music for me when I make something, and it could be just something in the moment, and it helps that moment either be dealt with or to accept it. And because music is so spiritual too, it's, for me, that's just something that I always do when I'm doing music. I feel like that's how it resonates with me, and that's just what I do when I do my music.
Oh yeah, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, now, like I said, we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions, and for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Actually, I've thought about this question a lot. Well, there's not just one person.
Yeah,
there's a lot. Super famous people. I would work with Post Malone. He seems like a cool dude. He's fun. He's catchy, and I dig his stuff. I would. I mean, I don't write words, so if I wrote something that he could put lyrics to, that would be awesome. I would love to jam with him. That'd be cool. Even just jam with him, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Playing with my brother again would be cool. I have a cousin who does a lot of music stuff as well. I told him a little while ago, I said, it's definitely like a goal of mine to, collaborate with you someday. So that would be pretty awesome somehow doing that.
I dig that. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Probably I would do Casey Bennett. He just released some stuff that I was like, oh, I hear him. He does vocals. I don't. And I'm like, the style of music that he's put out, I was like, oh, I really feel that's definitely a fun jive for me. I think it'd be cool to do like a a collaboration with him. I know he does the acoustic guitar and I do the electric. If we found some way of doing something, I think that would be pretty rad.
Oh yeah.
But there's a number of people here in the Couve that I would be like, hey,
sure.
I'd be down to do a collab or just perform with you.
Hell yeah. Well, everybody, you know what to do. At Casey in the comments, and then anybody else you'd want to see have him perform with or, make music with. And for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
The Edgefield.
Okay.
I think that would. I've been to a few shows there, and there's something about it that just it's become pretty iconic. But I think the Edgefield is it's a cool location, and that would be it's
a great venue. It's a really good spot to listen to music and kind of just be present for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Probably either Jimi Hendrix or Freddie Mercury.
Hell yeah.
Hearing some of his stuff, that'd be...
Man, what if they ever made an album together?
I was totally thinking...
Yeah, like that would be an interesting...
I was definitely thinking that first, and I said them separately because, well, it would be awesome, but then even like a collaboration between the two would be pretty rad.
That would be a really... I can't even begin to piece that together properly.
I can't either.
In my head, but that would be a really powerful collaboration.
That would be awesome.
AI, we need you to do something finally. No,
that's awesome.
All right, but now we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and February?
Well, I really hope to have at least one more song or two to finish out the EP that I have. I have 3 songs ready to go, and I want to have at least one more.
Yeah,
and it just hasn't hit yet. So I'm like, all right, it'll get here.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that'll be done before February or by February.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
For this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find the Evergreen on YouTube, Spotify, all the streaming services, Apple Music, and on Instagram. And I'm pretty sure that's the Evergreen Band. So that's where you can find. And then playing at Ronald Records here in Vancouver.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
That's about it, I think.
Hell yeah. All right, well, then with that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? It's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
One of my favorite bands and influences is the band Sigur Rós from Iceland. And I think their newest record, it's all, ambient and you can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
But there's something it's very moving. At least that's how I've interpreted it.
Mm-hmm.
Their most recent release, that album, almost every song is just like an emotional experience. And I find it, if you've never heard of them, you should check them out, Sigur Rós.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's what I really like is their music is, it just fits every emotion, every moment you're feeling, whether you're sad or whether you're super happy. It's really hard to explain, but that's how I've always felt with their music. And they're like I said, their most recent release has just been really awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, thank you for that rec. I'm definitely going to check it out. Well, that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm the Evergreen.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. is a show.
Keep jamming.